A lot of people have been asking why I have a service dog. Why do you need a service dog? It is, you know, it's a helpful toddler all the time. Anxiety, like worse than normal anxiety, just all the time. There's no reason for you to stop and interact with a person because they have a service dog unless you would interact with them already. Nightmares, flashbacks. So I've also noticed that a lot of people romanticize having a service dog. That's where she helps me activate my parasympathetic nervous system. One more thing we need to talk about, the difference between ESA and a service dog. Where are you sitting? Huh? You wanna sit on this side so you can see out the window? A lot of people have been asking why I have a service dog. Why do you need a service dog? A lot of them have not been very kind. A lot of them have straight up called me the R word. I've had people ask, why are you crippled? Why are you handicapped? Like a lot of people don't understand verbiage too. So anyway, we are going to be discussing my disability, which is what you're supposed to call it, and why I have a service dog for that disability. So really quick, before we even get into the episode, I just want to go over words that are not appropriate to refer to somebody with a disability using, I guess. So we don't use the word handicapped anymore. Crippled is not really a thing we say either. Obviously the R word, which I don't even know that you can say that out loud on the internet, so I'm not even gonna try, I don't know, but we don't use that anymore either. So the proper word is disabled or person with a disability. So either a disabled person or a person with a disability. That's the two things that are politically correct right now in 2024. Of course, this all could change at some point because as we evolve as humans, we figure out different things that describe us better and we tend to like those things better. So just a quick, like a quick lecture to start us off. Why do I have a service dog? So I have PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder can be caused by a ton of different things. This can be caused from witnessing or experiencing anything from combat, of course, that's a really common one, but natural disasters, car accidents, domestic violence, which is mine, a lot of different things. And like I said, you can witness it or you can actually experience it. Not everyone's gonna get PTSD if they experience something, but they could. So, and a lot of times it won't show up the day after or the day of. A lot of times it will take maybe 6 months or so to show up. So that is what I have and what PTSD is. I'm actually gonna link a video that I made where I talk about why I have PTSD and what caused it and stuff. It's really hard for me to talk about. I kind of wish that everybody would watch that video just because I think there's a lot of valuable information to where you can maybe learn about domestic violence and how it starts, you know, because I think that's less talked about. So anyway, I'll link that below. So some symptoms of PTSD are panic attacks, which I have a lot, anxiety, like worse than normal anxiety, just all the time. Nightmares, flashbacks, grinding your teeth. You can have a lot of problems in your stomach. Sweating for no reason is part of that anxiety, but like whenever I say sweating for no reason, like it is uncontrollable sweating for no reason just because of the anxiety, and the sweat from that is a different kind of sweat than like what you get whenever you're doing like activities, so it smells way not okay. So I have some other weird symptoms. I'm gonna link a PTSD playlist for y'all because I have a lot of symptoms that I kind of have figured out were PTSD over the years. The other weird one that I'm gonna leave you with is I have trouble regulating my body temperature, and it is because my body is in fight or flight. So my body is not pushing like my blood and stuff to my extremities like it should. So whenever I get cold, if I'm already in that panic mode, which I am most of the time because I have PTSD, I can't warm up. So that's been really problematic these last few weeks because we've had temperatures that were below 11 degrees Fahrenheit with the wind chill. So I mean, it's just very, very hard. It's been very hard on me for that. So what does Freebie do for my PTSD? So Freebie does a lot of things. Number one, she interrupts behaviors. So if I am doing something where I'm kind of zoning out, typically I'll kind of fidget and do the same thing over and over. And so she can actually realize that's going on and stop me. She can stop me from having panic attacks or help me to calm down from them quicker. It just depends on, you know, the severity of it. So, and if it really is triggered by something or if it's just me, because if it really is triggered by something, then she's not gonna know to like stop it. You know what I mean? Like she wouldn't know, like if something scares me and makes me have a panic attack, she's not gonna know that's gonna happen. But if it's just my body going into panic mode for no reason, then she can usually most of the time catch it and come do something about it first. And if I do have a panic attack or have really high anxiety or something like that, she can do something called deep pressure therapy. That's where she helps me activate my parasympathetic nervous system. So another thing that Freebie helps me with is watching my back. So this is super helpful because, of course, with PTSD, I'm gonna get startled pretty easy, right? So super helpful to know if somebody is walking behind me or if anyone's approaching closely or anything weird is going on. So Freebie watches my back and she can let me know if something's coming up behind me. And she can interrupt me if I'm dissociating, which is really helpful because sometimes I do dissociate, and she can always tell when that's happening. By the way, I'm pretty sure it's obvious, but it is raining. We're having a flood right now where I live, so sorry it's dark, but that's just gonna be the way that it is for the next pretty much all week long, so I don't have a choice. Using my Freebie mug. So as far as training goes, I did all the training myself for her. You shopping? Yeah. I did end up getting her from a breeder who specializes in service dog, and I was matched with her. I was actually matched with two. I could have picked her or her brother, and Freebie actually picked me. I'll put the video of how we met. So I had a choice between her and her brother. They both hit the same numbers on the Volhard, and so that was perfect for what I needed, which was a service dog prospect potentially. And that was the other thing. Whenever I got Freebie, my doctor had bounced around the idea of a service dog, but we had not committed to that yet. So it wasn't even for sure that she was gonna be my service dog because I was about a year into therapy at that point. So yeah, about a year and a half after the event and then about a year into therapy. So we were still trying other methods to see if that was what we needed to do for me. And it ended up being that we did. But whenever I got her, I went ahead and started training her for things that would be good for her to know anyway, just in case. And then, in my state, we don't have public access, right, for service dogs in training. So you can only go into like places that dogs can go, so dog friendly places. So it wasn't anything, like there wasn't any difference, you know what I mean? I was still just training her the same way I would train her if I was planning for her just to be a dog who would go do a lot of fun stuff. So that part didn't matter at first. And then Freebie actually caught a panic attack and wanted to help when she was, gosh, it was in September and her birthday's in April. So she was, maybe around 4, a little over 4 months old, and she caught a panic attack. I was sitting at the kitchen table and I started having a panic attack, and she ran in to help, and I just decided, you know what? I know what I want her to do, so I laid down and I put her on my chest. She was still really little. And so from then on out, it's kind of been that way. Whenever I start doing that, she just is like, oh, that's what we do. And by the way, you could train this with them being a little bit older, and that was my plan. I never intended to train her that young. All right, so let's talk about public interactions with a service dog. For me personally, I'm not a fan of them. I don't like it when people stop and ask us questions. I don't like when people come up and say, who are you training her for? What's wrong? Why do you have a service dog? And it's one thing if somebody walks by and they're like, she's pretty, or something, just a thing in passing. But whenever there starts being a lot of questions, it just gets uncomfortable, and it takes time. And I feel like that sounds rude, but you have to think about it like if every time you're out, you're getting stopped and asked questions.
That's a pretty dog, girl.
Thank you. Come here, baby.
Is that one of those?
No, she's a poodle.
She's a poodle.
Yeah, she's just a poodle.
That's the apricot.
About. Your vest is so crooked right now. Good job. Good leave. It's very good. Or people trying to talk to your dog too. That's another big thing. Don't interact with service dogs. Like if you do for some reason see a service dog team out, talk to the person, don't talk to the dog, and also make it brief. And don't ask what their disability is, don't ask what their dog does. There's really, honestly, the way I look at it is there's no reason for you to stop and interact with a person because they have a service dog unless you would interact with them already. Like if you would already come up to this person, ask them something because they're in the store and you just would, then that's okay. But otherwise, don't. Like This person's disability isn't any of your business. Also, what their dog does isn't your business. What breed their dog is, none of that. And if you're a person who is curious about it for yourself, there are so many resources online now. Like that's the great thing, is there's so many resources online. Like I said, the general rule I would say is if you wouldn't take a picture of this person or interact with this person in general, don't do it because they have a service dog. And not everyone feels this way, by the way. There are service dog handlers who love the questions, but I feel like the majority of us would kind of prefer to be left alone. Our service dogs are something that are there for us, that we have to live. So I've also noticed that a lot of people romanticize having a service dog, and two things. Number one, to have a service dog, that means you're disabled. So it's not as romantic as it seems. That's not fun. It's not fun to be disabled. It's not fun to need a service dog. So, you know, that's the first thing. And the other thing, if you are disabled and you do need a service dog, or you do need something, definitely consider all of your options, because while a service dog is what I chose, it still is having somebody with you all the time. It's having another thing to deal with. It's having a helpful toddler. I mean, she's great. I love having her, but it is, you know, it's a helpful toddler all the time. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's just not as exciting as it seems. Like, oh, I'm gonna have my dog with me all the time. It's like, yeah, it's great until you have to. Until it's something where you literally have to, your life depends on it. It's the only way that you can function. It kind of takes the fun out. That's all I'm saying. So definitely weigh your options. But if you do need a service dog, then I have a lot of playlists and videos on my channel that might be able to help you. And then I also wrote a PTSD service dog training book. And I have my service dog training planners / logbooks for anyone training their own service dog, so that you can plan your training in your life. So I'll link those for y'all. It's not that it's not fun to have her. It just sucks to have a service dog, because it's not that I'm not grateful for her, but it sucks that I am disabled and I can't do things without her. Like, that's the part that sucks. So, oh, that's another important thing to mention too. So to have a service dog, you have to be disabled, and your service dog has to be trained to mitigate your disability. So you can't just have a service dog because it knows tasks. Like, that's not the way that works. You have to be disabled, and that's something that you, obviously, if you're disabled, you're going to know it, right? But it's something, whenever you decide to incorporate a service dog into your treatment plan, you need to talk to your doctor about that. This can be a really great tool for a lot of people, but it's also not for everybody, because you do have a living being with you all the time, and it's a lot. It is a lot, and you have to consider them. It sucks that you need them, and that it's not just like because we want to, it's because you fucking have to. Like, your body's broke. So that's what I'm saying, it sucks. Let's talk about your legal rights with a service dog. So you need to check your country's disability laws for service dog. For ours in the US, this is the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's ada.gov, and it has all the information there. But I'll just give you a quick overview. So like I said, you have to be disabled. The dog has to be task trained to mitigate your disability. It only has to have one task. Some people say two, and I don't know where that got started. It has to be one task. You can have more, but one is the minimum that you have to have. Only dogs and miniature horses can be service animals. So, I mean, that's not my law, that's the country's law. And I'm pretty sure that's the way it is in most countries. But each state within the US has different laws. What that means is for your training, not necessarily for after they're trained, but for the time when your dog is in training. If you're training your dog yourself, you need to check your state's laws, because you may not have public access, right? So this just means you stay where everyone can go with their dog whenever you're training, and whenever you graduate out of that, then you can start going to places dogs aren't allowed. I made a video with a list of tons of places that you can take your dog if your state does not allow public access for service dogs and training, so I'll link that below as well. One more thing we need to talk about, the difference between ESA and a service dog. So a service dog or service animal, like I said, it can be a dog or a miniature horse, that is for someone who is disabled, and that animal is going to be task trained to mitigate that person's disability. Where an emotional support animal, or ESA, that can be any type of animal at all. You do not have to be disabled, and you can still need this as a form of comfort. They are not allowed public access rights where service dogs and service horses are. Emotional support animals are not allowed to go anywhere that regular animals cannot go. So, you know, anywhere at all. That list might be fun for you too, because you can take your animals there. ESAs can have housing rights though, so that is a different thing. And that's the reason a lot of people do want their animal to have an ESA letter, is so they can have them so they can rent. Also, I'm pretty sure most of you know this, but we share vlogs a lot. So sometimes this is us out and about. So if you're interested in seeing what our daily life looks like, just stay tuned for those. I usually try to post a vlog at least once a month. Honestly, sometimes it gets to be like every week if I don't have anything to talk about, but right now it's been every few weeks I'm posting a vlog. So I'm editing this video right now and I just realized I didn't tell you guys something super important. Number one, there are no service dog registrations or certifications required in the US. The other thing, those letters you find online, those are all scams. Do not pay for those. If you need a service dog or an ESA, talk to your doctor. Do not pay money for certifications online in the US. I'm not sure if other countries have this scam going on, but don't fall for it in the US. It's all a scam. This does nothing. Those databases are fake. They're all fake. So don't fall for that. I have a lot of resources on my website to help you, number one, train your service dog, but also to help you determine if this might even be a good fit, and things to consider, and also ways to think of tasks that you might be able to use your service dog for. And these are all things that, you know, you may want to talk to your doctor about. What I'm trying to do is give you the tools and questions to ask yourself, and also the questions to go over with your doctor and things to see if it might be a good fit for you. Because like I said, it's a huge commitment. If you have questions though, feel free to leave them below. I try to help in anything that I can. Also, if you think you're experiencing domestic violence, you probably are. Definitely go watch that video that I said. Also, go look in some Facebook groups for domestic violence survivors, and I promise you someone has said your story there. Promise you. If you think it's domestic violence, if you think someone's fucking with you, they are. So trust yourself. I promise you, you're not crazy. So anyways, thanks for hanging out with us today. I hope this answered all the questions. I'll link all the videos below for y'all, and then we'll see you next week. Bye.